Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to Fantasy Pros, the home of fantasy sports. It is me, and today a special guest, Chris Meaney from Fade the Noise, is going to join us, and we got a great show for you today. We are going to be previewing for you in fantasy baseball the top 10 draft day bargains. I've got 10, Meaney's got 10, so really, in actuality, there's 20. That's called math. And we're going to have them all for you, the guys that are going later in drafts that really could produce, or should I say outperform their ADP, and that's always what we're looking for, especially this is an important episode for those of you drafting in deeper leagues. So if you're in that 14-team league, that 16-team league, heck, even that 20-team league, this is a really important show. But I'll tell you what, even those 10 to 12-team leagues also, these names are basically free in these leagues, and when you're looking at those bench spots, you can never have enough talent on your team. So we're going to do that today, and after that countdown, we're going to get to a little mailbag, and I've got a very, very special game for our friend here, Chris Meaney. You are not going to want to miss the end of this show, because this is going to be, I think, an instant classic. That's right, I said it already. Chris Meaney, we're going to play a game today called How Canadian Are You? We're going to take a quiz to find out, because I always call Chris Meaney a Canadian treasure. He is a national treasure. And I am very grateful that he's here. And I get to talk to my friend Chris Meaney now twice in a week, and that is a good time. Chris, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, better. I like having you back in my life again, not going to lie. Yeah, 2 shows, pretty good. No, man, I'm looking forward to this. I'm a little nervous about the Canadian quiz. I don't know how Canadian I am. I get the accent, I suppose. People say it all the time that I don't look it, but I sound it. We'll see. We'll have some fun with that. But, yeah, man, excited to do this show with you and, pick your brain a little bit too. Drafts are certainly heating up. I love to find value where I can, and a lot of the names that I'm going to talk about are not overly sexy names, but they can still just return value and help you out late in your drafts, I feel like.
And that's the thing too. Like I always say this, not every single pick is the sexy pick. I mean, sometimes you're taking names too. Sometimes they're veterans that drop. Sometimes it's post-hype guys that maybe have a chance to figure out, or even players in new spots. And sometimes you have an opportunity there for a guy to turn around his career. And, you could circle guys who end up, especially pitchers the last few years that end up in Houston. Those are really interesting guys all of a sudden, because sometimes they've been able to take these guys and kind of move them up a notch or even two. And it's something to keep an eye on, and we're going to keep an eye on it for you here and go through those names. And, for those who don't know, Chris and I were used to working every single day together for many years, and that's years with a plural, between our time at Fantasy Network, between our time at Sports Grid, between our time at Line Star. So we've been all over the place, but I'm so happy that Chris is now, again, head of content over at Fade the Noise, which is great. You can follow him at Chris Meaney over on Twitter. So before we jump into things, I just want to let everybody know that we've got a big deal going on here at RTSports. They're the sponsor of today's show, and fantasy baseball best leagues are drafting right now. So to join those over at RTSports, go to rtsports.com/fantasypros. Best ball leagues are fun. They're a fantasy baseball draft without the season-long grind of management. I know everybody's so busy and it's a long season, so your best ball is a fun thing to do. You draft your team, you get your best possible score every week of the season, and RT Sports features best ball leagues from all different price points, anywhere from $10 to even $500. So if you're a big spender, RT Sports is the place for you, even if you just want to have, $10 and have some fun. RT Sports is also the place for you. Plus, RTSports.com has the Best Ball Championship featuring a $20 entry and a $10,000 grand prize. The Best Ball Championship is drafting now, but leagues are filling fast, so join now for a chance to win $10,000. Everybody loves money. RTSports.com with live drafts day and night until the season starts. Draft your team today. Go to rtsports.com/fantasypros. RealTime Fantasy Sports, the most trusted name in fantasy sports since 1995. All right, also, want to let everybody know, head over to youtube.com. Fantasy Pros MLB to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch all these shows here that we're going to be doing for Major League Baseball season. And we're giving away that Juan Soto jersey still. We've got some time left on that one. Free autographed Juan Soto jersey. What?
Wow.
I know, right? Wow. Chris Meaney, I'm not going to say you can't get in there because you can. You don't work here. I can't get in this, but you can. And everybody listening can. Thanks to our friends at pristineauction.com. And it's so simple. All you got to do is you go out there, you drop a review on Apple Podcasts or CastBox, you take a screenshot of it, and then you turn right around, boom, you go fill out the form at fantasypros.com/MLB contest. And there you are entered to win that Juan Soto jersey. Again, thanks to our friends at pristineauction.com. So get involved in that. And, of course, our MLB draft assistant too. Everyone's got drafts coming up this weekend, next weekend. The draft assistant is fantastic. Go to Draft Wizard over on FantasyPros.com, and you can get that draft sync to your draft. It tells you where the values are, where you can wait on guys. It's basically like having me come to your house and draft with you. It might even be better than that. I'm sure all the development people will tell you it's far better. So go do that as well. Chris Meaney, are you ready now to talk some draft day bargains with me?
Yes, now that I have the Juan Soto thing written down here to check that out later.
Yeah, I know. I mean, come on, Juan Soto. I mean, we gave away a Tatis autograph on Friday on the Baseball Fest, which was awesome. It was this incredible autograph picture. I don't even know the size. It was about this big. This is the size. I don't know.
That's the size. Okay.
This is why you have to watch on YouTube, because I'm doing things with my hands. You can't really tell that from just the podcast version, so it's important. So let's start with your number 10 draft day bargain. Chris Meaney, who you got?
Number 10, let's just start up at the top with a guy that's probably, not overly, let's see, is he a bargain 164 on Fantasy Pros? I think he is. I think he's in for a breakout season. This is the guy, going much earlier than anybody else that I'll talk about. We'll say that. Dylan Carlson. I still think that, last season there was some up and downs, but this kid is young. He's got the pedigree. He has got some speed, and I think he has some power as well. I'm not going to say that he's a 2020 guy this year, but I think, honestly, he could be a 2020 guy in the future. I definitely think he has 20 home run power this season. I think he can get to 10 stolen bases, 29% K rate over 118 plate appearances last season. Slightly high, slightly concerning, but I think, he can get down to the low 20s. Again, I think he has that 2020 upside. And there's been some talk with him hitting near the top of the lineup. Like right now, you look at Fangraphs and you see the projection, and they have him, hitting near the back of the lineup. But I think, when the season gets going, maybe 6 weeks into the year, I wouldn't be shocked, Joe, if this is a guy who is potentially their leadoff guy. If he can figure out, being patient at the plate like he was throughout the minors. He had double-digit walk rates throughout the minors. Not a lot of people are walking in the minors. Just the bus. I say that all the time, but yeah. There's not a lot of walks there. And the strikeouts early on, rookie ball, single A ball, 25, 26, and then he started to feel it. He started to make some adjustments. He's probably never going to be a 300 hitter or 280 hitter. I'm looking at maybe 250, 265 at best, which is, again, a little concerning. But give him 600 plate appearances. Like the lineup, even if he is starting, Joe, where he's hitting 6, 7, he's going to have some guys there with some RBI opportunities, with Rendon or with Goldie in there, and then you bring in
with Arenado,
Arenado. So some guys that are going to get on base for him and some potential. So again, 160, you get into that range where you're into the draft and you want to take some upside for an outfielder who won't kill you, just an average, and give you some speed and some pop. I think it's a decent pick.
Yeah, I think the key word there is upside, Chris. And I think that's what you're looking at. And I like now, going into 2020. I think there's a lot of tension in St. Louis on Dylan Carlson and how much of an impact bat he could be, because Paul Goldschmidt was kind of on an island by himself there. It's a good team, but it doesn't have a whole lot around him. Now with Arenado, I mean, that takes all the attention. I feel like this is a great scenario for Dylan Carlson to just kind of go up there, be him, and if he can get moved up in the order, that would be fantastic. Now, all my guys are from 150 and above, but I'm going to kind of cheat on this first guy. He's at 143. He's an outfielder that I feel like everybody's just forgot about. And I think he's actually going to go later in drafts over this weekend and next because he's dealing with a little bit of a spring injury issue. But it's Ramon Lorianno, who last year, let me tell you, I was not into the price of Ramon Lorianno at all. I was not buying 100% the breakout necessarily. I thought he was a nice player. I thought people were overpaying for the speed and power combination. But what looked like a nice 6th, 7th round pick last year all of a sudden has fallen off the map. Now he's in the 150s, and I'll tell you right now, I'll take a shot there for maybe a 275, 280 batting average, maybe 15 steals, maybe 15 bombs. He's a great defender. He's going to play every day as long as he's healthy. I don't want to look too hard into 2020 because, it wasn't a great sample size for him. But, Chris, I feel like Loriano's just kind of been forgotten. He went from darling in 2020 to forgotten guy in 21.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this too. I think you can say that about a lot of these A's. Matt Olson has burned people a couple times. Chapman, he's got terrific value as well. Even Elvis Anders. I had Anders on the list here as well, and not going to talk about him really, but this is another guy who's basically free.
Yeah.
I saw him, talking to a lot of the A's guys, there were some reports, an article I read in The Athletic of him teaching guys how to steal bases. That's what he does, right? And I'm sure he's talking to Ramon here, because potential leadoff guy. He's got some stolen base upside as well, some potential. You're right, a lot of people were completely in on this guy a couple years ago. He had the 24 bombs and 13 stolen bases, a 288 average. I think we can, there's a few guys that you look at 2020, he's one of them. Gleyber Torres is another one that stands out. Like just Moncada, just rough 2020, right? It was a rough It was a rough year for a lot of people. Let's say that. But the walk rate was solid, double-digit walk rate, which I like. I think he'll learn to get better at the plate. The skills are there. Fangraphs has him across all the projections as a 248 hitter. I don't think he's a 248 hitter.
I don't think he is either.
I think
the 265 even, and look, I think he's got the upside for the 280s, but if he gives you 265, 270, I really don't care. It's the OBP that I'm more concerned with, especially at the top of the order. And it's the power speed combination. All right, who's number 9 on your list here as we continue on our draft day bargains with Chris Meaney?
Well, I'll just stick with Canna, Mark Canna, because we're talking about the A's. This is what I was saying off the top. Very boring, right? Mark Canna he's not a flashy player. He does have the 20 home run power for sure. He maybe get you 4 or 5 stolen bases. There was talk that maybe he would be the leadoff guy, but it looks like they have him in the 2 spot, which is fine. He can get you about 160, 165 combined runs and RBI. The walk rate is solid, 15% walk rate. 387 on base percentage and 396 over the last 2 years. So if you're playing in those leagues, there's a bit of a boost there for him as well. I know he doesn't play in a great park, but he's got some pop. He's got the potential to go yard. 44% fly ball rate last year and 42% for his career. So again, this is a guy that's going. I think most standard 12-team leagues, he's probably not even getting drafted, Joe. And a couple years ago, I look at his 2018 season in the second half particular. It was very unsustainable, maybe a little bit, but he was a top 25 hitter in fantasy.
Yeah, and Ariel Cohen spoke about him on the show a few weeks ago too, and really loved the deep stats on him. And once again, the A's kind of scuffled a little bit last year, but we all know the A's are capable of an incredible run, and every year they get kind of underappreciated, undervalued, smaller market team, but certainly have a lot of good players and a lot of lineup protection there too with Olsen and Chapman and those guys. For me, the next one is, and everyone's going to be sick of me talking about him, but I don't care. Because the ADP has changed dramatically. Since I came in here to FantasyPros in February, this player's ADP was around 200. Then it went to about 180, then it went to 170, and now it's at 155. Okay? So it has moved 50 spots, and I told you it would. So if you were drafting early, you got a huge discount on him. But the reason I'm talking about him now again is because it's still a bargain at 155, and it's Trey Mancini. He's going to qualify at outfield. He's going to eventually qualify at first base again in most leagues. You're going to have that dual eligibility. You're going to have 25 to 30 home run upside with this guy. You've got possibility of 85, 95 runs scored. Same thing with the RBI potential somewhere in that neighborhood. And let me tell you, so far so good in spring. Good home ballpark. I know that factor is something we talk about. And, he's being discounted still because of the illness, because of the team he's on. And I think those are just 2 bad reasons right now to be dismissing him. They're not good enough for this player who probably is closer to that Anthony Rizzo tier than he is the tier of guys that he's going around. And I just want to throw that out there. So, yes, I understand I've talked about him a lot, but I'm pointing out it's been a jump 50 spots since we started this show in February till now. And guess what? It's still a bargain regardless for Trey Mancini.
Yeah, I love the call. Absolutely. This guy's great. I think you're right. People maybe just some uncertainty with the health, of course, but it's great to see him back and playing well and productive. This guy has a serious pop. 83 home runs over the last 3 years and hit 290 in 2 of those 3 years. He is got, there's no worry about playing time. He's going to get it as long as he stays healthy. He's a guy who can give you 600 plate appearances, and if he's giving you 600 plate appearances, even with the new ball this year, he's still hitting 25 homers. Right?
I can't wait to see this new ball. By the way,
me too. I know. There's a lot of talk about the new ball, right?
I don't even know how much I'm buying the new ball. I feel like the new ball is going to be out there in April, and when there's no home runs and people start groaning about that, all of a sudden the new ball, the new ball. Has anyone seen my new ball? Have you seen my baseball? Nobody knows where my baseball is anymore.
They'll have to be looking for the old ball to get back in so you can see some bombs.
Believe me, Meaney, there is a storage locker with all the old balls right in time for the playoffs. I'm telling you right now. All right, let's go to your number 8 on your list here, Chris Meaney. Who you got?
Let's stay with a first baseman who's got some pop as well, Jared Walsh. I think our guy Nando DeFino called him unreal. I don't know if we'll go that far, but this is a guy who
He had an unreal run last year.
He did have an unreal run, and again, unsustainable for sure. He had just 99 at-bats. He hit 293 and 9 home runs. Like, he's not a 290 hitter. We'll just say that right off the hop. If he gets me, a 255 average or a 260 average, would be loving it. But it does sound like he is going to hit in that 2 spot for the Angels, and I'd like it. I like where he's going to be. You get Trout and Rendon after him, Ohtani with some pop, but he does really have a lot of power, and that has been on display throughout the minors. And this is a guy who had 29 homers in one season in the minors, 36 in another, 301, 375 on base percentage, 913 OPS. Like, this guy does have legit power. There's no question about it. The fly ball rate, 37% last year, 46% hard hit rate for his career. He's not going to be a guy that hits, the pace on what he was on pace for 35 homers. It's not going to happen. But I think he gets to 20. And if he hits in that 2 spot, he's going to score some runs. He doesn't strike out, he did strike out, the AAA numbers are a little misleading. And the first season in the bigs in 2019, very small sample size.
Anybody in the PCL is always misleading. How do you think this all works out, though, with Pujols and the retirement tour and all of that in terms of PT?
So I think he's going to get the playing time. Pujols with the retirement tour, sure. It's just this Angels team, they want to win, right? They got to get to the playoffs. They can't be messing around with just getting at bats for Pujols. So he's going to be a platoon guy. He's going to DH here and there. He's going to come in late in games when they need an at bat and a hit. But I think the playing time is going to be there for Walsh. I think again, ATC has him for 485. I think that's fair. That's the highest I've seen. Zip's actually 495. I think he gets to that 500 plate appearance. I think there's a little bit of patience in his bat, too. And, again, he's hit everywhere. So I think there's a lot of power. I don't love this first base. Like, Mancini's a great call. But we're sitting here at pick 247, 250-ish.
No, look, for a corner
right?
guy, I think you do a lot worse than Jared Walsh as a corner guy. And especially in auctions, because I feel like he's a player who's going to go for that single-digit cheap value.
Exactly.
And you might be in season-long roto, he might do enough to be a good investment return on like a 5 spot or something like that. Maybe $5 for Jared Walsh or something like that. You end up getting him for, and he probably has enough power and enough at bats to get you by a corner infield in a season long. I think the head-to-head, I get a little sketch on him.
Sure.
But I think you bring up some great points there. That look, this is a team that really needs to win. They need to get in the playoffs in the worst way. Next for me is another Joe guy. He's on all my teams, and he's going to continue to be as long as you keep letting him slide to 160. And it's Victor Robles. Has anyone else noticed they want him to hit at the top of the order?
Yeah, that's a good call.
Hello, guys, look. I know it was not good last year, and I know all the nerds are going to look out there, and you're going to look at all of the deeper stats, and yes, the deeper stats were bad too. He's 24 years old. Let's give the kid a pass, okay? Maybe he was another one of these guys that got out of routine and all of these things. And you know what? There's always an adjustment with young players. Let's put him at the top of this order, and let's go. Because when you got Trey Turner and Soto hitting behind you, do we think this kid's not going to see a lot of fastballs? And part of the thing that hurt him last year was the fact that he didn't hit high in the order. I think you need to protect this guy at the top. I think you will see a different version of Victor Robles there. Is he going to be like a 400 on base guy? Probably not. But if he can get into that 320, 330 range with the power and speed he offers, I think that'll be enough to keep him there. And in roto leagues, when you're looking for a cheap combination of power and speed, I keep talking about Buxton. I keep talking about Robles. Of course, there's risk. But Meaney, the one thing that I'm willing to take that risk on is guys who steal bases, because just be good there. And if you're good there and give me anything else, it's just a bonus for me.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I've had a couple shares of him already. I'm into him. Yeah, the speed is there, and I think he's going to – he's still young, like you alluded to. And
24.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to make some adjustments. Yeah, that's a good call by you. And there's another guy I think, can offer some speed. Raimel Tapia for the Rockies. I mean, the walks last year up, the Ks down. He's a ground ball guy, but he can hit all over the field. He can pull. He can hit in every single area of the field. You look at some of his numbers, and he's a guy that is just a great hitter. The contact rate is there. He can hit well against lefties, which is surprising. He's a lefty. He can mash lefties. Last season, 364 average against lefties. For his career, 284 against lefties, 285 against righties. He can get you double-digit homers. He can get you double-digit steals. So he's going to hit 280. And all you really need to know about him is that he's going to potentially lead off for the Rockies in Colorado, and he's going to give you a good average, right? So if you're playing in those roto leagues and you got him as a deep guy, maybe you bench him on the road, but you play him at home. And I know there's always some uncertainty when it comes to the Rockies. Like, what are they going to do with their lineup? But I think that he is the guy that's going to lead off for them just because of things like an 83% contact percentage that what he had last season. Is a guy that's going to get on base, and he's going to run when he's there.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent call as well. Next one for me is at 169 in ADP, and it's a player, sometimes when guys have suspensions and then they come back the next year and deal with injuries, people just automatically like, well, I want nothing to do with that guy. But I think Frankie Montas could be an absolute steal in drafts. At 169, we're looking for pitchers that have upside. He's got that. He pitches in a very home-friendly environment with the A's. You look at, he was dominant 2 years ago in his stretch, and yes, he did get popped for the PEDs, that's fine. And then last year, people say, well, look, he didn't have the PEDs. He also had a back issue last year. And when he missed the time and came back healthy finally, and you knew it was a back issue, it wasn't a performance issue, because he would go out there, throw an inning, and come out of the game not because of the performance, because he could not literally throw another pitch. When he got healthy and he came back, he was exactly the same great Frankie Montas at the end of the season, his final start. And I know I'm putting a lot into that final start, but I think I'm kind of putting a combination of things. The final start, how good he was the year before the suspension, and put that combination along with the ADP. When we're looking for pitchers this year with so much uncertainty, I'll take the risk there because I feel like in some ways there's less risk. I feel like in a lot of ways Montas has already shown me the pitcher he can be, and I'm still waiting for some other guys to hit that next level, and the guy's already done it. Now it's just a matter of staying healthy and going out there, and he's in a good spot to succeed. It's a good defensive club. It's a good home ballpark. There's no reason why the ERA and the WHIP can't be good. Strikeout rate is good. Everything is good. And if he gets on the special vitamins again, just don't tell anybody this time. Don't get caught. I'm on special vitamins right now. Every show I get on the special vitamins. People think, they say Joe's got too much caffeine. It's like, no. I have 1 cup of coffee a day. I'm just excited to be here. I love this. This is what I do. And talking with great friends of mine like Chris Meaney, this is what I get excited about. So no, it's not caffeine and it's not special vitamins. It's just you, Chris Meaney. It brings it out.
And I love to hear that. Yeah, I like the Montas call too. I don't want to over-exaggerate on his great season, but it really was a strong season. I think he gets back to keeping the ball on the ground. I think what you talked about towards the end of last year is showing signs of what he did a couple years ago, right? Early on, it was a rough go for him, and he was giving up home runs, but that's really not what he does. I mean, he keeps the ball on the ground. You mentioned the park. Inside that division, right, there's a lot of just home-friendly pitcher parks there for him, so that's pretty solid. I'll piggyback and go to another pitcher who doesn't have the best fly ball rate or ground ball rate, which is a little concerning when he pitches in Milwaukee, is Freddie Peralta. I know he's starting to get a little bit of buzz lately. I'd like to hear your thoughts on him, but this is a guy that I think has tremendous upside, like strikeout upside, and that's really what I'm after here towards the end of drafts. This is a guy right now, Fantasy Pros, I'm seeing 318. I've seen him go much, much higher than that. He's starting to get, like I said, some more traction here because he's pitching in spring. Got to remember, he's still fairly young. He's 24 years old, 14.42 K per 9 last year. Now, again, only 29 innings, so unsustainable. But you go back to the year before, 2019, 85 innings, 12.18 K per 9. The swinging strike percentage is absolutely solid, 15.7 last season, 12.6 for his career. The fly ball rate is what concerns me. Like, he can, like, the command and the walks, he can give up a couple bombs, sure. But the fly ball rate has declined in each of the past couple years, so it seems like he's starting to figure that out as well. This is a guy who's very, very cheap. He's going to have every opportunity to pitch inside that rotation. Look,
this is a pitcher, I think, in Peralta that is going to have a moment where, if indeed it does click, everyone's going to go, oh my God, this guy came out of nowhere. But really, he didn't, because everything you're talking about, the incremental adjustments he's made and the incremental improvements he's made. This is a live arm, and if you could get the most out of him, all of a sudden that rotation becomes very good. And that over under is sitting around 82 for the Milwaukee Brewers this year, and I think that's a joke.
They're going to be a really good defensive team too.
If Yelich is healthy the entire season and they get pitching from Peralta, Burns, and Woodruff, they're going to crush that 82. I'm just telling you right now. And both of these pitchers are bargains because one is obviously free that Chris is talking about. And the guy I'm talking about with Montas, these two specific guys, they can be difference makers. And it doesn't matter if it's, in the 100s. You can find bargains actually in the top 100. But there's even guys like Gleyber Torres who I think are going way too late compared to what their talent level is just removed from a 35 home run season of
Exactly.
Gleyber Torres. So bargain is always in the eye of the beholder, but Peralta is basically free. And for an arm talent like Peralta, who would be given every opportunity to just run with it if he got onto a good run, I think it's a terrific investment. And if you miss out on him, it's probably going to be a DFS investment too. I'm sure folks like you and I are going to look at him. Number 6 on my list is going to be Andres Simenes of the Cleveland Indians. He is at 192, so now we're pushing the 200s here. Look, as far as I'm concerned, this is his job. They threw Ahmed Rosario out in center field this past week, and he made 100 errors, and Shane Bieber, I think, wanted to kill him. It was pretty awful. What a terrible idea that was. So it tells you everything that Cleveland thinks right now, which is Jimenez was the guy they were targeting to be their next shortstop. He's got a little pop, not a great power hitter by any stretch of the means, but some surprising pop. Stolen bases are going to be there, I'm telling you right now. If he hits at the top of this order, my goodness, he could score 90 runs easily in this lineup. This is a pretty good lineup with Franmil and Jose Ramirez and a couple other guys that they've got there in Cleveland. So for me, this is another one that's just floating around. If you can get this guy into your middle infield spot in those season-long roto leagues, I think you'll be very happy. He's also a tough hustle kind of guy. Like you watch him play the game. He plays the game hard. He runs out every ground ball. He's a good glove at shortstop, a far better glove than Rosario at shortstop. And I think defense really matters with this young pitching that they've got in Cleveland. So Jimenez is a guy that I've been drafting everywhere, and I'm very happy. And I am actually shocked, Chris, that more people haven't jumped into this. And I guess a lot of people didn't see him as much as I did as a loser Mets fan. I saw him play quite a bit, and I saw him play in the minor leagues. And I was always very enthralled with him. I thought he was a very good player. Didn't think he was going to be a star, but I thought one of these guys were, man, if everything breaks right, this is going to be a really useful fantasy player, almost like an Elvis Andrus back in the day.
Yeah.
Like if I gave you a comparison, that would be the guy. Like go dial back 8 years ago, Elvis Andrus, and that's what I think Andres Jimenez is going to be this year.
Yeah, good call. I haven't had any shares yet, but I've been drafting with some sharp people who just seem to be not reaching, but getting him, right? If you got your eye on a player and you're near the end of the draft, you just got to make that call and go get him and feel good about getting him. And I think you should feel good about, selecting him. I love the call, right? This is a speedster. He's got a ton of speed, a guy that really doesn't strike out a whole lot. And I do believe that he is going to hit near the top of the order there in Cleveland. So I like that call quite a bit. I mean, just look, 2018 single A, 28 stolen bases, and then he had, double A, he moved up. So there's 38 combined for that season. And then the following year in double A, 28 more stolen bases. And again, a guy that just didn't really strike out a lot. So I like
he's
that
a good
call.
contact guy. He's got good speed, good glove. And I'm telling you right now, keep a close eye on those spring lineups. Because if he keeps hitting at the top of the order, that's something to really keep in mind. Because Cesar Hernandez is going to play second. They brought him back. He's going to play there. Rosario, Rosario's not a great defender. He doesn't have good range. Doesn't have the greatest arm. He doesn't hit good pitching. I mean, there's just not a lot to like with Ahmed Rosario, trust me. So he is not the linchpin of that deal. It's Andres Jimenez and the other two prospects they got for Francisco Lindor. So we're in the top 5 of the bargain range now. So these are some more deep names. So Chris Meaney, who you want to go with next?
I'm going to go with Austin Reilly at 216. This is pure upside. I'm not ready to give up on this kid. He's 23 years old. I know there's been a lot of rumblings he can't hit righties. He had 215 against righties as a rookie and then 238. You remember when he came up, he was unbelievable. You and I were talking about him at DFS. Oh my goodness. Is this going to continue? And it didn't, of course. It was very unsustainable. But we know what the ceiling looks like as a kid, as a youngster. I think the playing time will be there. He's going to hit near the back of the order, which is a little concerning. But there's some guys. This Braves lineup to me is one of the best in baseball. I don't have to tell you that. There's a lot of guys that are going to get on base. He's going to be there for RBI opportunities. But look overall in the 2 seasons 503 plate appearances, 26 homers, the 232 average. I think he could be a little bit better than that. I think he can get to 240, as I mentioned. He's improved against righties, but he absolutely mashes lefties. Strikeouts were down, walks were up. Great spot to drive in some runs in, RBI opportunity. I'm seeing him, 216. But NFBC, there's a wide range of outcomes, Joe. It's like pick 150 or pick 450. You're either in or you're out. I think he should be in. I think he's going to clean it up. Again, super young, highly touted here. I think he puts it together where he hits maybe 250 and gives you 25 homers and maybe cashes in with 90 RBIs or 70 runs. Like, I think he's that good.
Yeah, I look, Austin Reilly is another player as well that if you follow his career path, he's somebody that had adjustment periods at almost every level. So every time he moved up, there was an adjustment, and then he got better, and then there was an adjustment, he got better. It reminds me of Christian Walker when he was in the Orioles system. He would get moved up, struggle, get really good, get moved up, struggle, get really good, and then same thing happened in the major league level for him, and eventually it kind of clicked a little bit for him in Arizona. No, I don't think he had the same ceiling that Reilly has. I think Reilly has a higher ceiling, but you're right, there are some things to fix. But if you can get him as a corner guy or as a bench bat, I think you could do worse than Austin Reilly because there's still potential there and very little pressure because the superstars are all up at the top of that order. Yeah. So I love that call with Austin Reilly, and I know Dan Harris is a big fan too. He's got every time we draft together, he's always got Austin Reilly. Every single team, Austin Reilly.
That makes me feel good.
How about a pitcher at 205 for my fifth guy here? How about an opening day starter for the Boston Red Sox and Eduardo Rodriguez? Oh. Hello, I mean.
This is your guy, I think. I think you're a big Eduardo guy.
I always am. It's because he's a strikeout machine. Yeah, he walks
he's
too
good.
many guys, but look. 2 years in a row, 3.8 ERA. 2 years in a row, a FIP underneath that 3.8 ERA. It's not a surprise. It's not a joke. It's not like, oh my God, he's not he's complete smoke and mirrors. He's not. He's got strikeout stuff, man. This guy blows guys away. He's going to be the opening day starter for the Red Sox. The Red Sox are going to score runs, okay? JD's going to bounce back. They still got Devers. They got Bogarts. They still got a ton of talent. Verdugo was very good last year for them. Do not fret about the Red Sox. They might not win a whole lot of games, but they're going to be good again. They're not going to be great, but they're probably a 500 team when everything breaks for them. However, Eduardo Rodriguez can be a very good source of strikeouts. Just for the strikeouts alone, Chris, when you're looking for guys in that 200 range, how many guys outside of the top 200 players can strike out 200 guys? Not a lot.
Not a lot at all.
And this guy has done it. He's also thrown 200 innings, which... that is a watermark you do not see very often. And it's something that this year we should start valuing more. COVID really took him out last year. It was a very unfortunate set of circumstances. He's healthy now. They named him the opening day starter, yet his ADP has not moved. So you see Trey Mancini's ADP skyrocket 50 spots. His moved 10 at the most. So it's crazy to think he's still hovering there. I'm all in on Rodriguez. Love him as a sixth starter or fifth starter. You could draft him but in actuality, he's going to perform more like a 3.
Yeah, the upside is absolutely tremendous. And there's a few guys that I have my eye on in that range. Like Haney is 200, you mentioned. Rodriguez 205. Stroman, your boy. I like Stroman. He's another guy who's just safe, right? You know what you're going to get with him.
The difference with Stroman is he doesn't have that same strikeout rate that Rodriguez has. So I think if you're looking at this and you say, okay, if you're leaning towards, let's say, season-long roto with more whip and ratio stuff kind of things and ERA, then I can understand going with Stroman, maybe better path to W's also. But if you're just looking for extra strikeouts and you're looking for a good pitcher, I think that you can make a case both of those guys, have their risks. But I'll take Eduardo Rodriguez for the strikeouts, especially in points leagues as well. If you're head-to-head points, definitely Rodriguez there for me. But Stroman's another guy, too. He's not on either of our lists. I almost put him on there.
Me too.
But that's another really good name. There's some value around 200 at starting pitcher.
Yeah, I scratched off Stroman last second. I agree with your take, too. It depends on how your draft is going. I would rather have Erod just because of that strikeout upside and what he can bring you. The ceiling is tremendous when it comes to him. But, Stroman is a guy that I think because of that, because you see this, he's not going to get you a lot of strikeouts, he tends to fall a round or two. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, fine. I was thinking about Stroman in this round, but now I can get him in the next round. He's a guy that keeps the ball on the ground. He's not my guy. I had him on the list. I scratched him off. Is another guy in this range like John Means is there. Paxton, say what you want about injuries, but he has the same type of ceiling, like a very high ceiling can get you a lot of strikeouts. But I'm going to just stick with a Houston Astro pitcher here, and Christian Javier. Another guy who doesn't overly strike out a ton. His K per nine right around 9. I mean, that's not ideal, but this is a guy that I feel like has never really gotten the respect. I was taking a look at some of his minor league numbers. Opponents hit 170 against him in the minors, and in the bigs, 188 across only 54 innings, so very small sample size. But a few of his starts that I watched last year were really strong. One in particular against the Dodgers, he went 5 2/3, only two hits and 1 earned run. He struck out 8 against that LA Dodgers team that doesn't really strike out, right? They make a lot of contact, so anytime you can make some of those hitters look really foolish, it catches my eye. Fly ball, there is some red flags, right? Of course, with any pitcher going outside the top 200, there are some red flags. The fly ball rate is a little high.
He'll be a limited guy too this year too.
He could be a limited. What do you think for innings? Can he get to 120? There's an opportunity inside that rotation.
I think there'll be an opportunity for the 120, and I think what you'll see maybe is him start with the rotation too, depending on what happens with Framber Valdez, because it seems like he's going to avoid that surgery. We got that, which is great. Seems like things are healing. But maybe you start him out of the gate, and then maybe you move him to the bullpen, at some point, or maybe, when he comes back, when Framber Valdez is healthy enough, maybe you bump Javier to the bullpen. But, Chris, I had 2 separate really good baseball people, professional baseball people, tell me last year that Christian Javier, again, separately, both told me this, that he was the most impressive just arm that they saw. And that was in spring training last year. So he's young. It's a question of can he put it all together, and the Astros are going to be right at the top of that division yet again. And you mentioned earlier when we talked about Frankie Montas, you're going to have starts against Seattle and Texas and some of those lower rung teams there, and those are going to be good matchups for even a young pitcher like Javier.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's a matchup pitcher right now, but I think one that if he gets off to a hot start in a redraft league too, he becomes a tremendous trade chip because people won't really have the foresight to see, okay, what happens when he hits the innings wall, because he will hit one eventually, probably. Next on my list is going to be Amir Garrett of the Reds, ADP 258. He's finally going to be taking the mound this week. You can see that they babied him, and you know why? Because he's the closer. That's why, because Sean Doolittle's ERA is 24.75 right now. And no, I'm not making that number up. It is actually 24.75, okay? Anything that he throws over the plate has been basically hit out of the ballpark. Sims is still hurt, still working his way back from injury. Amir Garrett's the guy. If he holds the job all year, what an incredible value this would be for saves. 258 overall for a guy who could save 30 games. There's the opening there. Iglesias is gone. Archie Bradley's gone. Amir Garrett has closer mentality. He's got closer fastball. I think they've been grooming him for this role. Sure, if he falters, of course, like every other guy, there's going to be somebody else, and Sims would be a guy to back up. And I'll tell you what, it costs you nothing to handcuff those two guys if you want to. I don't think Doolittle's the handcuff. Not the way he's pitching right now. I go run away from him. But Amir Garrett, when you're looking for cheap saves, I like him better than guys like Montero. Guys who might have a safer concept of the job. I still prefer Amir Garrett because he's going to come even cheaper than some of those other guys. And, I lost my other cheap saves guy, Hunter Harvey, to an oblique injury. So I'll see him in a couple months, I guess. So I got to find somebody else, and Amir Garrett's my other guy.
Tanner Scott is a guy that I really like for Baltimore, who's really free. Yeah, that's a guy who's, he's hitting triple digits on the gun, so he's starting to get some tension, but he's one that you can just pick in your last round. I think I got him with my very last pick in the Great Baseball Invitational. But yeah, there's a couple. Garrett is a great call. Pete Fairbanks is another one who's going pretty late. Joakim Soria is going real, he's starting to get some attention too, but this is another guy who's going fairly late, can help you out. So there are some closers, and I agree with Doolittle. I mean, he's got so many red flags across the board.
Terrible.
He is an absolute stay away.
I don't like the phrase dumpster fire because I think it gets overused, but when your ERA is 27.5, and look, it was like over 4 or 5 innings already. It's not like it wasn't one outing. He's just gonna lit up. It's just been terrible. So I'm just running away from him. Who are you running towards, though, for the next guy here?
What about Isaiah Connor Falefa?
I've got some shares.
This guy, yeah.
Well, if you play on Yahoo and he qualifies a catcher, I am all in. Give me
I think he's almost a must on Yahoo.
Let me tell you, he's a target on Yahoo, and I'll tell you why. Those guys who have everyday jobs, he's going to play everyday shortstop, and he's going to qualify a catcher.
Exactly.
Any league that you're playing in where that happens, please go get him. Please.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, he's gonna flirt with 600 plate appearances, and it's like tell me a couple catchers that are gonna have that. It's just not. You just can't find it, and it's
double
not even
digit stolen bases too.
Right. It's not even that. It's the stolen bases that he's going to give you. He's going to give you double-digit stolen bases. He's not a big power guy. You'd be lucky if you get 10 homers. Maybe you get 7 or 8 homers. But he's going to get you those double-digit steals, 14% strikeout rate last season, 16 for his career, hit 290. Maybe he's a 265. Maybe he's a 270 guy. He's also going to lead off for this Texas team. So
stolen bases.
Yeah.
Not going to crush you on batting average. And if you can qualify him at catcher, run. And even if he can't, like, I think he's actually on our labor bench, I believe. So, nice. I'm all for that. That's fine. Runs scored is underappreciated. Runs are what makes the world go round in fantasy baseball. It's what baseball is about, scoring more runs than the other team. And we don't talk about it enough. And I think it's good to discuss that and bring that out and really bring it to the forefront, because if guy's scoring runs, that means he's probably hitting for power, he's at the top of the order, he's getting on base, some kind of combination of these things. So runs are good. Go back to runs. Go back to total bases.
Yeah, I played a league with total bases.
You know what? I did my first total base draft here at FantasyPros yesterday with our staff. It was a staff draft. I haven't played in a total base in years.
Different strategy.
It's different, and I love it. I think we should see more of it.
Yeah, I agree. And that was my thing for Carlson early, is that I do believe, like, in 6 weeks, this is a guy who's leading off for St. Louis, and get some bats behind him that can drive him in, right? So yeah, it's underrated. Not a lot of people talk about runs, but if you can get a guy this cheap and give you 70 runs and then cash in with a decent average and double-digit stolen bases, plus in Yahoo leagues that we talked about, you just plug him in. He's gonna finish in Yahoo leagues as a top 5 catcher.
Absolutely. All right. I love free stuff. You like free stuff, Meaney?
I love free stuff.
All right. So besides the Juan Soto giveaway, which is free stuff, how about a pitcher last year that was, I don't know, pretty much unhittable? Like, nobody seemed to have good at-bats against this guy. He does have innings issues, but in some leagues he qualifies at RP also. 26 innings last year. He struck out 34 guys, just 5 walks, 3.16 ERA, and a 1.01 whip. It's Eliezer Hernandez of the Marlins. And mentioned it on the show last week. I asked Craig Mish, I said, who's the guy lighting it up in camp? And he told me the other day, he said Hernandez. He's the buzz guy. He's the one everyone's talking about. Alcantara is going to, be the opening day starter again. Sixto's getting all the publicity. Pablo Lopez, another darling. But Hernandez is at 265. He is free. Whatever innings he gives you, I think they're going to be quality. And I'm just going to take them at 265 with a free square. I'm going to take those innings. I'm going to run. And when it runs out, it runs out. And I just say, what a wonderful ride. It's like a summer fling. It's like, you met somebody and you had this great summer together, and then it just kind of disappears and everybody goes back to their regular world. That's what this is going to be for Hernandez this year. Free pitchers with that kind of an impact, with that kind of K-walk rate, with that kind of ratio, with that kind of whip potential. I mean, I'm going to take that quality arm and the quality innings he gives me, and then after that, if it doesn't work out, okay. But how can I pass on a free square like that?
You're a smart guy. And listen, when you asked me for the list of 10...
it's because I learned from the best. Yeah.
Listen, when you asked me for the list of 10, inside here of what happened last night, when Joe asked me for the list of 10, I think I gave him 15. And he's like, listen, can you cut that down a little bit? It's like, I have a hard time cutting it down.
I got a short attention span. I get,
I know. And then I dropped Hernandez off my list, and it was killing me this morning. I'm like, I think I got to bring him up anyways. And then you bring him up, so it's perfect.
He was on my list 2 days ago.
Oh, great. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I like about him, for sure. I mean, the last season, a 13.2 swinging strike percentage, the year before 11.5. We always, in the DFS world, we always talk about contact rates and just targeting pitchers who have over 80%. This guy had a 74.2% contact rate last season and 76 in 2019. Yeah, Craig Mish knows what's going on, too. I'm a huge fan of his. I think that's a terrific call.
It's nice to have friends in the business where you can ask them questions. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw a video that he did with Alex Anthopoulos talking about the Braves, and he was gushing about Reilly, and I already liked Reilly, so I was like, oh yeah, Reilly, let's go.
Exactly. And look, these are important things. When you hear the buzz guys out of camp and the guys who show up in good shape, get off to good starts in camp, spring can be overrated, but for certain players, it's important. And I get Austin Riley, it's important. All right, last 2 here on each of our lists. So who you got left here? Who's number 2?
I feel like you may not like this one, and some people may just roll their eyes and be like, no way am I drafting Mitch Haniger. There's no way I'm taking this
You're
guy.
talking to the original OG Mitch Haniger guy. So, I mean,
okay.
So many people are now, Harris talked about him. Somebody else talked about him. Now you're talking about him on the show. And it seems like it's making me want to kind of turn back and look, at Mitch Haniger one more time, because I've been burned so many times, but I am a Mitch Haniger dude. So why are you back in? Is it just a matter of the fact that the ADP is so cheap?
Yeah, I mean, that has something to do with it. Certainly the price has a big part of it, right? You've been burned before. You don't want a piece of it. He hasn't played a game since June of 2019, so it's been a long time, but you go look at just that season that he had. He was a top 25 hitter. He was a guy that was touching a lot of categories for you. 25 homers, 7 to 10 stolen bases, the fly ball rate 45%. He was, I have him down, a top 30 hitter in 2018. Yes, he's fragile. This is why we're getting a bit of a discount when it comes to Mitch Haniger. I can hear you.
It is, but I almost want to take it. Like, once again, you could get him for $1.
Right, $1. That's it. You're going to get him near the end of your draft. You're going to put him up there in the nomination, and everyone's going to say, no chance am I going with Mitch Haniger.
You get him for $1 or $2. You get him, and if he sucks, you cut him.
You cut him, exactly.
That's the thing. And that's why I'm starting to come around, because I'm big into that. Well, let's take a shot here in the draft, and if he returns value at $2, or if he returns value in the very last round, my goodness, what a steal. And if he doesn't, I cut him 3 weeks into the season, and life goes on. And I think that's okay, but you're yes. right, and everybody else is bringing him up is right too.
And the fact that right now he's healthy, he's not going to cost you anything. You're right. If he starts slow or he has an injury, that's it. You cut your ties. It's not like 2019 where you had to draft him high and he frustrated you throughout the year. But go to that 2018 season, 26 homers, 90 runs, 93 RBIs, double-digit walk rate in his last 2 seasons. Doesn't strike out a ton. The 280 average in back-to-back years, 2017, 2018. He's not a 220 hitter. Maybe he's a 250, 260 guy, but he's hitting near the top of the order. It's not a great order, but he's still at the top. So he's going to get you 500 plate appearances at least if he does stay healthy. And again, you combine the runs and the RBIs, you're going to get 160 at least with 20 homers. So what you said was perfect. $1 doesn't work out, you cut him and move on. There's going to be hot guys on the waiver wire.
And you'll find outfielders. Outfield you can find on the waiver wire. There will be guys who do pop up there. All right, I got 2 more guys, and they're both pitchers. One's at 276. It's Jake Odorizzi, who's now in Houston. I want to see what Houston does with him. Look, at the very worst, Jake Odorizzi is just a guy. And you know what? He's just a guy that goes out there and throws innings. And you're going to need those guys. And I was very close to putting Jose Quintana on my list also, because he's had a dazzling spring.
Good.
And if they have found whatever was wrong with him when he went to the Cubs, this is going to be a huge push for the Angels. So he's like honorable mention on my list because he's another free pitcher. But just like Odorizzi and Quintana, these are guys that have the potential to give you innings and starts. And you're going to be looking for that this year. There's going to be so much uncertainty with all these young pitchers who did not build up innings. And I keep trying to drive this home to our audience here to let them know it's important to look at the old farts, because some of these guys who you just can count on for 180 innings, they're going to be valuable. They might not be perfect innings. They might not have ERAs around 4 or above. But you know what? Just having somebody to throw out there in a given week, especially in head-to-head leagues, is important. Let's see what they get out of Odorizzi, because once upon a time, he was a very high-end guy, and he's had an okay career. But if he goes from okay to good at 276, that's a great return on investment. That is a great bargain. And my last guy, and then we'll go at Meaney's last guy, is Madison Bumgarner at 280. Okay, I don't like Madison Bumgarner going into last year. He was terrible. He knew he was terrible. He knows exactly how bad he was. He's come out and said it. And he looks like a pitcher who is realizing that, okay, it's time for chapter 2 in the career. I don't throw 95 anymore, so what can I do to get guys out? And maybe the strikeouts come down a little bit, but if the ERA gets better and that goes down, the whip goes down, he has less strikeouts, but he's a better, more efficient pitcher, once again, it's free. What does it cost you to find out? He's been good in the spring. If he goes out there and he stinks, you cut him 3 weeks into the season. Him and Mitch Haniger on your first waiver wire moves. And then the next thing you do is you move on and you find somebody else. But once again, Chris, this is a Hall of Fame pitcher who's only 31 years old. I'm not ready to give up yet on that. I thought his ADP would be way higher than it was this year. It has not moved despite the good spring. And I think it's great because he's free and I'll take him.
Yeah, I think people forget that he, is only 31. I think they look at Bumgarner and they see the
He's
past
been around
couple years
so
and they think
long.
an
He's been
old
there for
fart.
10 years,
Yeah, he's had a lot of elite years too. So you're right, the strikeouts are down, but that's okay.
He's like Britney Spears. He's like much older than you think they are because they've been around so long, but they've got a lot of miles. Britney's been through a lot. We've all seen the documentary.
Yes.
There you go. There's your SAT analogy. Madison Bumgarner is the Britney Spears of Major League Baseball. There you go. All right, and he's also hurt himself on the outside with the rodeo and God knows when and the bikes and all the things that he's done. So go ahead, continue on.
He's had some freak injuries, yeah. But the command could be decent for him. I don't know if he'll be sub 2 walks per 9, but he'll be sub 3. Maybe he get you 2.4, so he won't really kill you there where he won't get you a lot of strikeouts. But you're right. There's something to be said about these guys who, they get a little bit older. Like Burley comes to mind, right? The strikeouts were never there, but he changed.
Burley. I mean, Pedro, when he didn't have the same velocity. They figured it out eventually.
Yeah,
and then they were
pitchers.
useful. CC Sabathia was useful at the back end of his career. And if Bumgarner can be anything close to that over the next couple years, I mean, he's not going anywhere. He signed a good long contract. He's going to be in Arizona. So he has enough pride. I think he turns it around. So number 1 for you, who's the last guy on your list? Draft day bargains.
So this, just to be clear, this isn't my number 1 bargain.
Okay.
But maybe Miles Straw.
Yeah.
Maybe Miles Straw. Can he hit leadoff? Is he? I don't know. Maybe he can't. Maybe he can't hit leadoff. But I know one thing. Houston didn't do anything to replace Springer, so they are comfortable with Straw playing some outfield for them. 30 stolen bases, 70 alone in 2018 across 2 levels, AA and AAA. So you're getting a speedster. Heck, if he doesn't hit at the top of the lineup, maybe he hits in the bottom, whatever, get on base, score some runs. I think we're going to see a great season from Altuve. I think we're going to see a good season from Correa. There's still some solid bats inside this Houston lineup. Actually, you talked about Houston, Odorizzi. I'm talking about another pitcher. Like, there's value, I feel like, across the board with these Astros, whether it's just
people don't like them.
People don't like them. People don't think that they can still bring it, but look at the playoffs, what they did, right? They were underdogs against Minnesota, crushed them.
They were
Oakland,
a playoff
crushed
team,
them.
and they're going to be a playoff team again this year. Yeah. And I'm telling you, it's really the built-in disdain from the general baseball public. They don't like the Houston players. A lot of people don't like what happened and what went on there.
Sure.
And a lot of the Houston players still have a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. So I'm with you. I think there's always value in Houston.
This may be a stretch, but if he does find himself leading off and, the strikeouts have to be down, but he's had double-digit walk rates throughout basically every stop in the minors, and he didn't strike out a lot there, and he hit for average in those spots as well. If he can get on a roll and hit for average and he's finding himself leading off, I'm not saying he's going to score 90 runs. This is a guy who could flirt with 75-plus if he gets a few plate appearances at the top of that order. If anything happens to Correa and he's sidelined, or Altuve who's sidelined, that wouldn't be good for the Astros lineup, but it would create an opportunity. We're going to see playing time for this guy. I think 550 plate appearances is what I have him projected for.
All right, let's get to the mailbag. Those are your draft bargains. Actually, we'll recap them real quick. Madison Bumgarner, Odorizzi, Eliezer Hernandez, Amir Garrett, Eduardo Rodriguez, Andres Simenes, Frankie Montas, Victor Robles, Trey Mancini, and Ramon Lorianno for me. For Meaney, you have Dylan Carlson, Jared Walsh, Austin Reilly, Raimel Tapia, Mark Canha, Mitch Haniger, Isaac Kiner Falefa, Miles Straw, Christian Javier, and Freddie Peralta. All good names. You should circle these names because when you have these drafts, you got to find value, especially in auctions. These are very important names. So, on to the mail. Let's go to the mailbox and see what's in there. At Tyler J. Arthur wants to know, first of all, 2 questions. What are the biggest changes you make when playing in a shallower home league? Mine's just a 9-team league. And which hitters do you think get the biggest jump in OBP over average? Thanks. Love the show. We love you too. Thank you, Tyler. For me, I'm always willing to take more risks in the shallower leagues because the replacement value is easier. So, like, if I think Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to break out, yeah, I'll take him in that league. Because if he doesn't, my team's going to look like an all-star team anyway. And if he does, oh my gosh, how good is that going to be? So I'm more, or I say less risk-adverse in the shorter, smaller leagues because the replacement value is easier on the waiver wire. I'm also more apt to go after those elite pitchers because everybody else is going to be kind of, getting those. You can actually create an advantage if you go hard after those starting pitchers because there's a finite number of the really good ones. You can have 2 or 3 of those guys on your rotation. That's really good. How about for you, Chris? And Any guys in terms of adjustment for OBP leagues over average? The Carlos Santanas of the world always pop out. Brandon Nimmo is a big high OBP guy. Those kind of names off the top of my head.
Yeah, off the top of the head, just because I talked about Canna, like a 390 on base percentage last season was top 15 in all of baseball. Jeff McNeil comes to mind as a guy who's, he's going to get on base. David Fletcher, not a flashy guy. You probably don't want him in a 9-team league. He's not going to touch your radar. But Tapia is another guy, on base percentage. These guys that are great contact hitters, and all of them that I just mentioned are elite contact hitters. Like they don't strike out a ton. If you look at Fangraphs and you take a look at just one thing I like to look at. You look at plate discipline, and you just sort it for the past couple of years. Like last year was a little suspect for sure, but Fletcher, 92% contact rate. We know about LeMahieu, Marte, contact rate, Rendon, contact rate, Brantley, contact rate. Like these guys are making contact and they're getting on base, and they're not flashy hitters. McNeil is in the top 20 over the past couple of years with an 84% contact rate. So those guys that are going to get on base. But I think you nailed it. That's what I was going to say. The first thought that came to my mind is, oh my goodness, a 9-team league. Think about the pitchers that you could get.
Yeah, go crazy on the pitching because
go crazy on the pitching.
And understand, like even if you're playing 5 outfielders, it's still only 45 deep in the active. So it's still not that much. So really, pitching becomes the ultimate priority there. That's the way I would go. All right, Brett at Bijako91. Bijako! Keeper points league, $300 budget. That's a big budget. $8 Max Muncy or $4 Plesac. Pitching will be thin in the auction. That's what Brett says. So, Meaney, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think if pitching is thin, I think you go Plesac. I still have a couple concerns with him. But
I do too, but for $4, I think I roll the dice.
Yeah, for $4, absolutely. Like there's some upside for maybe a little bit more in terms of strikeouts. I don't think the walk rate will be, what was it, sub 1? I think it was 0.95 or something silly like that. The guy didn't walk anybody. Fly ball rate's pretty high, but there's some upside there. The fact, what you just said, pitching is going to be thin. In order to keep a pitcher, I know in your keeper league, I've kept a few, and I know how thin it is after you keep a couple, and everyone else is keeping a couple pitchers. So that's what we said at the top with the last question. That's why you get those pitchers, because I think it's easier to find a couple bats, move up the lineup. Oh, this guy, he's moved up the lineup, and he's unheard of, and we're picking him, and we're playing him. We like the spot in the order. With some other pitchers that you pick off the waiver wire, they could really ruin your ratios from start to start. It's hard to find stud arms on the waiver wire. So, yeah, Plesac is where I would go. All
right, we got time for one more. Jeff Butera at ABC7 Jeff, who has a better chance of returning their former self in 2021? Is it Chris Bryant or JD Martinez? For me, it's JD Martinez. I think Chris Bryant's former self is his current self for the most part.
I'm worried about him.
But there's another guy in OBP league to bump up. Bump up Chris Bryant. That's another guy too. And it's not that I think Bryant's going to be terrible. I think he'll probably have a decent season playing for that, contract and getting out there. He's aware of the pressure. But JD, I think, was just 2020 bit JD. He was embarrassed. I think he gets back. That's where I put my money. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, 100%. You see him in spring. I mean, some of the videos he's working out, he looks nice. I think a bounce back from a lot of these Red Sox. They're going to score some runs. They're going to give up a ton, but they're going to score some. He had 213 last year. He's a career 290 hitter. He had 300 in prior 4 years, 5 of 6. Yeah, bounce back for sure.
All right. It's what you've all been waiting for. It's game time. And we always like to have fun here, and Chris Meaney's a good sport. So here we go. We're going to play a little game to test how Canadian Chris Meaney actually is. So, question number 1. Almost any Canadian can't resist the sweet taste of Tim Hortons coffee. And I will tell you, I love Tim Hortons. We have a Tim Hortons 10 minutes from my house in New Jersey. I can't believe we have one. How often do you visit Tim Hortons? A, I'm barely there. B, I go once in a while. C, I try to go every day for my Tim fix. Or D, I go multiple times a day.
I'm rarely there. Hey, I am rarely there. Goodness. I'm not a huge Tim's guy. I used to be. And, at the old company I used to work for, FNTSY, you're very familiar with them. We had a Tim Hortons right beside us, attached to the building. And I had Tim's, when I worked there, I had Tim's every day. So maybe I got out of it. But one thing I'll say, there was this, I don't know how true it is, but apparently McDonald's stole the coffee beans from Tim's. And
it's all about the beans. I learned that.
It's all about the beans.
I learned that in Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's all about the beans.
What an awesome episode.
Oh, God, I love the beans.
It's all about the beans. And McDonald's stole the beans, so I go to McDonald's for my coffee now.
Oh, my goodness. This is going to hurt you on the scale. All
right.
Know,
I'm not very
Canada's 2 official languages are English and French. Are you bilingual? Not at all. I can speak one fluently, have words with the other. I am fluent in one and basic grasp. I'm perfectly fluent in both.
I'm not fluent in French. I can understand French. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, and I actually watch the Canadiens games in French, so that helps me a little bit. And when I was young, I wanted to work for the Canadiens, so I took French courses. Super tough, man. It is a very challenging language, so I can't speak it, but I can actually kind of carry on a conversation when somebody speaks to me French and I respond in English. So I have a few French words, but no, man,
right.
I'm mostly English.
Next question. So many unique words are used in the North, but which slang term do you use the most? Loony, washroom, double-double, or A?
Probably A.
I was going to say it's A because I've spent enough time. It's definitely A.
It's definitely A. I try to get that out of the words and sentences that I say. I say A quite often.
All right, this is very simple, and you mentioned some time with the Montreal Canadiens and all that. Do you enjoy poutine? I'll answer
goodness.
yes. For me, yes.
100%. It is amazing.
Buddy.
I brought it up to somebody at FTN when we were doing a show the other week. I mentioned poutine, and neither of them knew what the hell it was.
What? Oh,
and I had to explain it to them, and they're like, "That sounds amazing."
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. You can. There's Mary Brown's. I don't know how familiar with Mary Brown's, but they do taters, stuffing, and gravy and cheese.
What is Mary Brown's? Is this like a restaurant?
It's like a KFC. It's like a fast food chicken.
I don't know what this is, but now I'm getting, as soon as I get
best
that
legs in town, bud. Mary Brown's best legs in town. It's get your Thanksgiving poutine. It's nice.
All right. Of the following Canadian television shows, which could you watch over and over again? Corner Gas, Letterkenny, Heartland, or Hockey Night in Canada? I think I know the answer to this.
I was going to say Letterkenny, but you got to say Hockey Night in Canada. Absolutely. Every Saturday night. Let's
go. I think you have to, right? I mean, that's kind of it's kind of part of the gig, right? It's got to be.
Absolutely.
All right. Obviously, we know how much you love hockey, so that's an easy question there. Can you handle the cold, or do you dread when it rolls around every year? I'm not a fan of the cold. I can deal with it, but I don't like to. I live for the cold. It's okay.
I deal with it. That's what I do. I deal with it.
You're getting old, like me. I can't deal with the cold anymore.
You know what? I'm getting near there. I'll say that. I lived in Alberta for a little bit, and let's do the calculations. What is minus 50 Celsius to Fahrenheit?
I don't. Gross. That's the answer. Whatever that is gross. I don't even want to know what it sounds terrible. I don't want any part of it. No good. All right, let's see if we can squeeze in one more here. It's time for some delicious dinner. Which Canadian restaurant is your favorite? Eastside Mario's, A&W, St. Hubert's, or Montana's? I have to be honest with you. I've heard of two of these.
What ones have you heard of?
I've heard of A&W, and I've heard of Eastside Mario's.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I've been to an Eastside Mario's now that I think about it.
Yeah, Eastside Mario's is not bad. They might get my vote. I'm a big pasta guy. I like the spaghetti, and they have multiple pastas. And one thing that's really cool about Eastside Mario's is they will give you unlimited salad, Caesar salads, and unlimited bread, fresh bread, soft bread, the nicest bread. And you know what? Listen, if you're just going to get that as an appetizer, it makes you feel really good. You start your meal strong.
If
you go in hungry, they take care of you right away, right? As soon as you get to the plate, here's the bread, here's the salad. Appetizer.
Fill up on bread. All right, actually, we've got time for one more because I want this one. I want this one answered. Of the following, who is the best Canadian artist in your opinion? Is it Michael Bublé? Is it Neil Young, Gordon Lightfoot, or Celine Dion?
Oh, man, I really like Neil Young.
That's where I would be going to.
Yeah, I'm a big hip fan. I love the hip, too, but I love Neil Young. I probably, honestly, I'd listen to Neil Young maybe... I would say once a day, almost, maybe 5 times a week.
Big fan. I'm a big fan as well.
Big fan.
I would ask if you wear plaid, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that already.
Yeah, I got some plaid.
All right, so let's put it all in there and see what happens. It says you are 94% Canadian. This is good. It's a picture of Wayne Gretzky ice dancing with Alanis Morissette, and they're both wearing Maple Leaf sweaters and holding a cup of Tim Hortons, and everybody in the crowd in the rink has free health care. It's amazing. Chris, I want to thank you so much again for coming on with us and being a good sport. And it was great fun to talk to you. We got some great bargains for everybody, hopefully some laughs as well. We answered your questions. We did it all. Chris, tell everybody what's going on at Fade the Noise and where they can find all the great content there.
Yeah, FTN, all the noise over at FTN, FTNDaily.com, FTNFantasy.com, FTNBets.com. Yeah, covering a lot. March is an awesome month to be a sports fan, right? You got March Madness tipping off, golf, baseball right around the corner, football drafts right around the corner as well, free agency. So, at Chris Meaney is the best way to follow my work. Free show Mean Streets on YouTube. Gonna get you in on Mean Streets too. We'll cover those New York Mets. So, but yeah, blast, man. Thanks for having me on, and the quiz was great. I needed that.
Everybody needs a good laugh. It's Friday. Yeah, let's have some fun, for God's sakes. All right, I want to remind everybody, too, and thank our sponsor, RT Sports, of today's show. Go to rtsports.com/fantasypros and get in a best ball league today. And also, remind you, go to youtube.com/fantasyprosmlb to sign up for our YouTube channel. And don't forget, we still got that Juan Soto giveaway. FantasyPros.com/MLB contest, thanks to our friends at Pristine Auction. So that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Chris Meaney, I'm Joe Pisapia. We'll see you next time, kids.
Au revoir.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.